You don't plan on running into the ghost of your past while ordering a latte. But that's exactly what happened. And just like that, the one person I had spent 10 years trying to erase stood right in front of me, asking if I still take my coffee with 1 sugar and no cream. I swear, for a split second, my lungs forgot how to work. The world outside the busy hum of downtown New Haven, the sound of car horns and chatter spilling in from the street vanished. All I could hear was the low, steady voice of Caleb Reyes, the man I had once loved so recklessly it almost ruined me. 10 years. 10 years of burying him under layers of ambition, half-hearted relationships, and forced smiles. 10 years of convincing myself that he was just a chapter in my messy college-era past. And yet here he was, behind the counter of a cafe I had chosen at random, wearing a faded black apron, his sleeves rolled up to reveal the veins along his forearms I used to trace with my fingers. I hated that my chest tightened. "Still 1 sugar, right?" Caleb asked, and there was something maddeningly casual about his tone, as if we'd just seen each other yesterday. His lips curved, not quite into a smile, but into something softer, something familiar. My throat tightened. I wanted to scoff, to throw the past back in his face. But instead I heard myself mutter, "You remembered." His gaze didn't waver. Of course I did. That was the problem with Caleb. He remembered everything. He remembered the way I hated rainy mornings because my hair curled uncontrollably. He remembered the first fight we had in the cramped dorm room, how I shouted I needed space and how he gave it too much of it. He remembered the promises we made under the bleachers at a football game, promises we were too young and too scared to keep. And now, as he set the cup of coffee in front of me, the warmth of it spread through my hands, but the ache spread deeper. I didn't drink right away. Instead, I studied him older now, leaner, with faint creases near his eyes. Life hadn't been easy on him, but God, he wore it well. There was still a quiet steadiness about him, the kind of calm that had once been my anchor. I hated myself for noticing. "So," I said, breaking the silence with a brittle edge, "you're a barista again." His eyes flickered with something amusement. Pain. Couldn't tell. "Yeah. Again." I almost laughed, but it came out sharper, almost cruel. "Some things never change." He didn't flinch. He never did. Instead, he leaned forward slightly. Resting his elbows on the counter like this was the most natural thing in the world. "And some things do." His eyes softened. "Like you. You look different." Different. Not better. Not worse. Just different. "Life happens," I muttered, taking a sip of the coffee just to avoid his gaze. And damn it, it was perfect exactly the way I used to drink it. Not too bitter. Not too sweet. 10 years had passed. But the taste transported me back to late-night study sessions, to laughter echoing in dorm hallways, to Caleb's arms around me after long shifts at his part-time cafe job. And just like that, the walls I had built started to crack. I set the cup down, maybe too hard. "Why are you here, Caleb? Why now?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he watched me with that steady, infuriating calm. "Because I had to come back. And because some things don't stay buried, no matter how hard you try." The words sank deep, hitting places I didn't want touched. I should have walked out. I should have left that cafe. Left him standing there with his apron and his quiet eyes. Left the ghosts where they belonged. But my legs stayed rooted to the floor. Instead, I whispered, "You don't get to just walk back into my life like nothing happened." Caleb's expression shifted. Just slightly guilt flickered across his features. Raw and unguarded. I know. And I'm not asking you to forgive me. But I'm not going to pretend like what we had wasn't real. The air between us tightened, thick with everything unsaid. Outside, a bus rumbled past. The sound muffled. Someone called out an order from the far end of the cafe. But Caleb didn't move. Neither did I. It felt like time had folded in on itself, collapsing the 10 years into this unbearable moment. I wanted to hate him. God, I wanted to hate him. But all I could feel was the dangerous pull of familiarity, the gravity of a love I had once sworn off. My hands curled around the cup again, desperate for something solid. You broke me, I said quietly, so low I wasn't sure he heard. But he did. His jaw tightened. I broke myself too. For the first time in 10 years. I saw the cracks in him, the weight in his shoulders, the regret etched in his face. And maybe that was what terrified me most. Because he wasn't the same boy I had once loved. He was a man now, carrying scars of his own. And part of me wanted to know them. Caleb didn't push me that day. He didn't demand answers or forgiveness. He just handed me the coffee, gave me a small nod, and turned to the next customer. But that single moment, that single look stayed with me long after I walked out of the cafe. I told myself I wouldn't go back. I told myself it was a fluke, a cruel trick of fate, that the city was big enough to lose him in again. But 3 days later, I found myself standing in the same line, clutching the same nervous energy, waiting for him to notice me. He did. Of course he did. Back again. His lips curved slightly, almost shy this time. I wanted to lie. I wanted to tell him it was coincidence. But the truth slipped out anyway. I couldn't stop thinking about the coffee. His eyes softened, like he heard what I didn't say, that it wasn't about the coffee at all. Over the weeks that followed, I became a regular. First, I justified it with convenience. The cafe was near my office. The coffee really was good. But the truth was simpler. I wanted to see him. I wanted to test if the ache in my chest every time I looked at him would dull with exposure. Caleb didn't pry. He asked small questions. Nothing heavy. He remembered the little things, though. How I still tapped my fingers when I was anxious. How I still preferred sitting by the window. How I still avoided mornings when it rained. And I remembered things too. The way his voice dipped when he was tired. The way he always gave extra care when steaming milk. Even for strangers. The way his eyes followed me when he thought I wasn't looking. But the ghosts lingered. One evening, after staying too late at work, I stopped by the cafe just before closing. The place was quiet. Chairs stacked. Soft jazz playing from an old speaker. Caleb was wiping down tables. Sleeves rolled up. Hair falling into his eyes. "You should be home," he said, glancing at me but not stopping his work. "Could say the same to you," I replied, dropping into a chair. For a moment, silence stretched. Then, softly, I asked the question that had been clawing at me since the day we reunited. "Why did you leave?" His hand stilled on the cloth. When he finally looked at me, there was no defense in his eyes. Only sorrow. Because I was afraid. Of myself. Of us. I didn't know how to love you without destroying both of us. Anger flared. "You destroyed me anyway." "I know." His voice cracked. "And I've hated myself for it every day." Something inside me splintered. The part of me that wanted to stay angry fought with the part that just wanted to collapse into his arms and let 10 years of pain dissolve. But instead, I whispered, "I needed you." Caleb stepped closer. So close I could smell the faint mix of coffee and soap on his skin. His hand twitched, like he wanted to reach for me but didn't dare. I needed you too. That's why I'm here now. I couldn't keep running. The weight of his words sank deep. For the first time, I saw not just regret, but hope. And that terrified me more than anything. The following weeks blurred into something fragile and tentative. We didn't call it forgiveness. Didn't call it reconciliation. It was just being near each other again. Small steps. Coffee cups passed with hands that brushed too long. Conversations that lingered after closing time. Silent walks to the subway, where we stood awkwardly at the edge of something neither of us knew how to name. But one night, rain pelted down hard, drumming against the cafe windows. The shop was empty except for us. I was staring out at the streetlights when Caleb came up behind me, close enough that his breath warmed the back of my neck. "You still hate the rain," he murmured. I turned, and there he was, so near, so impossibly familiar. My chest tightened. Not tonight. And then he kissed me. It wasn't the reckless, hungry kiss of our youth. It was slower, heavier, filled with years of longing and regret and something that had never really died. My hands curled into his shirt. His arms wrapped around me. And for the first time in 10 years, I didn't feel broken. When we pulled apart, his forehead rested against mine. His voice was hoarse. "I don't deserve another chance. But if you'll let me, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn it." My throat tightened. Tears burned at the corners of my eyes. But I didn't look away. "You already wasted 10 years. Don't waste any more." And just like that, something inside me gave way. We didn't fix everything overnight. There were still scars. Still late-night arguments. Still moments when I wanted to retreat into the safety of anger. But there were also mornings when he brought me coffee in bed. Perfectly made. Afternoons when we laughed until our sides hurt. Nights when his steady presence reminded me that real love wasn't about never breaking. It was about finding your way back. 10 years ago, we were too young, too scared, too reckless. But now, standing side by side in a quiet cafe in a city that never stopped moving, we chose each other again. And this time, we weren't letting go. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.